said, "Tom, what are they going up to? Like, what do you have to have them? Trampolining or?
Trampolining, right. Well, when they're here with me, we take walks around the building.
Okay.
And I've been bringing their bikes and scooters too with me.
Okay.
So that sometimes they pull their scooters out and we'll scooter around, or my son's only biking right now, so he'll get on his bike.
I saw him.
Yeah, I've been telling him, like,
running
how fast
around.
can you bike around the building in one lap to see if you can get faster?
Are they over it, or are they like, we love
Over
this, they want
they're
less
over it.
less home time?
I don't know if it's less long time, but they miss their friends.
Totally.
They miss their friends.
I know, it's a tricky thing for them to be.
So I need to turn this or vertically.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, that's a tricky thing. We don't think of ourselves in that frame. And
Yeah, because they're going through something too.
yeah, absolutely.
And they don't quite express it the same way that we do as adults. But yeah, we're trying to keep them busy. We're doing puzzles at home, and we try to take walk the dog every day.
Yeah.
My son and I will take bike rides together.
And Dave does the lion's share of the cooking. That's
Yes.
his
Yes,
thing.
my husband is
Who's
the chef.
the grocery getter?
He usually is, because he's always thinking about what we have, and he knows what's in the kitchen, and he knows what's defrosted, and he knows that all I need is an extra, couple minutes of, couple bits of mozzarella or something to complete a.
Dave Miner's here.
Dave Miner's here.
Hi.
What's up, kids?
Your haircut looks amazing. Did you do that yourself?
No.
Who did it?
Shirley.
Uh-oh. Okay.
We were all masked.
We
Yeah.
are just
We're just getting started.
getting ready to get started.
Yeah.
I think we're live.
Yeah.
Do
Oh
you
no.
wanna,
I just want
do
to
you
talk
want
about
to
social
video
distancing.
cameo?
Do you want to come wave to everybody? Do you want to?
Hmm?
Do you want to safely socially distance and come around and say hello?
Walk around the front.
If you pop in here, I'll come around. You can just say hi.
We're
What
just
do you want
about
me
to
to
get
do?
started, everyone.
Can't hear.
Come on in. Scooch through
Yeah.
here. It'll be against the table.
Yeah. We got our
There
path.
you go.
We built our pathway.
I built the path, yeah.
No, that stays. That's Lauren's. And you can sit in my. Can you see my chair?
Yeah,
Stand by it.
totally. Yeah, Thursday Miner.
Hi,
Dave,
Lauren.
Our first viewing in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
You want us to get rolling?
Yeah, we can go ahead and get started. I think we're all set up on both Instagram and Facebook.
Hi, friends, family. Hi, Mom. Hi, JoJo. Yeah, I'm Jenn Rossi with Miner Family Wines, and we actually have an amazing little tasting setup for you today. But first, I have to introduce two very amazing special people. First off, to my left, I have the wonderful Stacy Vogel, our winemaker, and cameo appearance. Welcome, Dave Miner of Miner Family Wines. How are you two doing?
Wonderful.
Dave, you need some, would you like Sauvignon Blanc or Viognier?
I'll have some Viognier.
Okay, perfect. So we are embarking on our
Very first Instagram Live, Facebook Live,
cheers.
tasting. This is our new virtual tasting room. What do you think? We've got our new bar,
It's lovely.
our newly renovated
A little
space.
emptier than I'd like to see it.
Yes,
It's
absolutely.
lovely.
Well, I feel like we should do an air cheers real
It's
quick.
been
Cheers.
weeks
Yes.
since we've
It's
seen each other.
been many weeks. Two things to note. First and most foremost,
Safe space.
we've got our 6 feet of tape down below, and I'm standing well behind them. And then, really important, Lauren from our fabulous marketing director, she is behind the camera, behind the scenes.
We'll see if I can
Come
make
on
it
around.
into both lenses. Here we go.
So yeah, Dave just popped in. Stacy and I were intending to do the tasting, sans Dave, but then he just rolled in because
Proceed.
you own the place, so it's fine.
You never know when he's gonna show
We
up.
are filming from our beautifully refreshed and amazing tasting room. So when you do come back, we just had wrapped this phase 1 of our refresh in the end of December.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving-ish,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so soft time in Napa for visitation. So we were raring to go and ready when things get back up and running. But this is going to be your new tasting room, which looks amazing, and yeah, we're super excited about it. I have to ask first before we get into our wines here today, what is your go-to at-home quarantine wine. You're at home, reach for your glass. It's Wednesday at 3 or whatever. It doesn't have to be producer,
Yeah.
but like, what's your go-to varietal?
So we've got our first of the heat wave here in Oakville. It's currently 87 degrees outside. That's going to be a Sauvignon Blanc or a very light, crisp rosé. Like our rosé, a rosé from Provence, something that's light and crisp and acidic and juicy and is going to be a perfect aperitif when it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you're already hot and you're waiting for dinner and we're relaxing after whatever it is we have to do that day.
I honestly have been going through cases of unlabeled Grenache rosé.
So can you get into detail for our friends out there? What is unlabeled Grenache rosé to the
Well,
minor?
It's a Grenache rosé that Stacy makes every year, basically just for the staff. So we put it in a Sauvignon Blanc bottle with a screw cap, and it doesn't get labeled. It just,
It's not sold.
everybody gets 5 or 6 cases to take home with them to enjoy. One of the perks of working at Minor, and I honestly, it's kind of like my daily water. It's just yummy and fresh and clean and has lots of flavor. Spectacular. Stacy rocks the world.
Good, thanks.
Such a
Well,
nice
we had a
gift.
little, the wine is kind of a funny story. We had a little extra of what we call saignée, which is if we get a red wine, I want to bleed a little bit of the juice off right at the beginning to help concentrate the flavors. We'll bleed a little bit of juice off, and it's just basically sugar water. And so it's called a saignée, but you can ferment it into wine. And it's a rosé color if it comes off of a red wine grape. It has a light, refreshing kind of taste to it. And so one year, I had to concentrate a couple things, and I had a lot of saignée left, and I fermented it and said, hey, rather than either throwing it away or selling it, can we just bottle it just for employees, not to be sold? And so we were able to do that. And then Dave loved it so much. Next year, he asked, so what are you making me this year? What rosé are you going to make me this year? So the Minor Shiner, as we call it, was born.
When I was in Montana, I had like 3 or 4 different vintages of it, and I know one
Really?
year we made, and one year we made Pinot, and one year and Syrah, but one of them I can't remember what year. It was like super light.
That's probably Grenache.
Yeah, and it was like I had 1 bottle of that left in Montana. I drank it. It was spectacular.
Oh, great.
So you did a vertical of minor employee
Rosé.
Shiner rosé.
Problem is, you don't really know what vintage you're drinking.
No.
You get them all mixed up.
And they're punchy. They give you a little, I've taken to walking around the park near my house by myself with a mug of rosé. I'm like one of those like thermo mugs, so it keeps it nice and cold. So that's been my,
Looks like a coffee cup.
It does, no one's
Wait at the neighbors
taught
at
me.
9 a.m.
Some gentleman said, enjoy your tea when you came by me. I said, I will.
It's
Um,
fruit key.
It's fruit forward
Who
tea.
knows?
A little bit of background, I guess we should go into as far as the Minor family winery goes. Who are you to us? We know you make our wine, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
I almost had Viognier come out my nose.
So I'm the head winemaker here. I've been here for 12 years now. I came on as an assistant winemaker in 2008 and took over all the winemaking in 2013. So it's been a good couple of years now. Let's see, I moved to California in 2002 to pursue winemaking. I went to UC Davis and got some education in that arena. I did some vineyard hopping and harvest hopping around both Napa Sonoma, France, and Australia. Very, very luckily, I was able to do some experiences there. I've been here since 2008. So time flies, yet it feels like I've always been here. This is my home.
And it's like a new normal all the time because you've been here how long and we've never done this.
And we've never done this.
So it's like day one every day.
I am getting requests to talk a little bit louder.
Okay, got
So-
it. So I am on the shout level.
You're good.
But yeah, you're gonna pick it up a notch.
Okay.
Talk
On the
louder.
volume.
I can't hear, so it's all good.
Dave, so what's your little snapshot, elevator pitch? Who is Dave Minor to Minor Family Wines?
I'm just a guy who strolled in and started, making wine. So we've been here in this building since 1996, and I started with my Uncle Bob at Oakville Ranch making little wine here and there from just that vineyard, and kind of grew into what we're doing now. So I kind of do the dog and pony shows now, and back in the beginning, I did kind of everything. I, monitored vineyards, I checked sugar levels, ordered glass, ordered capsules, ordered barrels, did the blends, did everything.
But now you've hired amazing people to do all that stuff with you.
That's half the fun of what we do, is being able to do it with people that you really enjoy. And, that's really half the fun of it, because if you don't really like the people you're working with or the people you're selling to or doing business with, then it's really not that much fun. So you guys are more than half the battle, and just being able to hang out, and it's great to see you guys in person.
Yeah.
I haven't done that for a little while, so but that's what it's all about. It's all about having a lot of fun, doing something that you love, making great product, and sharing it with people. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you specifically. My background is I've been with Minor almost 7 years, so half of your lifetime here almost. And I met Dave when I was a wine buyer. I worked for a restaurant group. He plucked me out of the Midwest. I'm from Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, originally. OH.
We love Midwest.
And I was coming here for work trips, and I fell in love with the brand, obviously, the Minor story, Dave, the whole nine, and he was nice enough to let me come on. And I started my role as our director of consumer sales, which is, we call it DTC sales in the biz. And then I took over our western region for wholesale in, 2.5 years ago now, which feels like yesterday, because I cover Colorado west, so all those states up and down and west, all the way to Hawaii, which is awesome. But yeah, so I kind of got to go circle back, because now I'm selling wine to our restaurant accounts again, and I used to be a restaurant account, so it's full circle. So thank you for that. And we didn't know if it would work out, but
you're a fantastic salesperson.
So it's happening. We do have some things. Obviously, we're here to talk about Sauvignon Blanc and Viognier. If you have Minor Sauvignon Blanc or Viognier at home right now, hopefully you're already drinking it, because we've been talking to you for a while.
It's at least 2 p.m. on the West Coast, so it's 5 p.m. on the East Coast.
Exactly. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, as they say. So get some out, start drinking, and then start tasting, wine tasting. And then we've got some questions and things to chat about too. So I don't know, do you want to kind of get into the wines themselves?
Sure. So Sauvignon Blanc, we can talk about Sauvignon Blanc first. Glass. So we've been making Sauvignon Blanc for a long time. I get questions a lot about where we get our Sauvignon Blanc from and what makes a great place for Sauvignon Blanc to grow. Sauvignon Blanc is actually one of the parent grapes of Cabernet Sauvignon. So anywhere Cab Sauv grows great, Sauvignon Blanc grows great. So we think the best Sauvignon Blanc in California comes from Napa Valley, because that's where, in our opinion, the best Cabernet Sauvignons in California are grown. It is unfortunately a declining varietal in terms of tonnage in Napa, in terms of the acreage that's grown, because it's the dollar value, unfortunately, of the grapes and of the wines that are sold are less than Cabernet, but it makes the most delicious wine coming from this area. We have 2 sections. One section, we have 2 small blocks that are here in Rutherford, so on the valley floor, and then one larger block that's in Childs Valley, which is a little valley on the east side of Napa Valley, but still in Napa County. It's still in the Napa Valley ADA, but it's a little sub-ADA, as we call it, way up in the hillsides. Up in Napa. So the 2 areas together make a really nice blend. Sauvignon Blanc is a grape you often either find a really grassy, what people think of New Zealand style Sauvignon Blanc, grassy, really acidic, or you'll often find it very lush, very tropical, fruity. Some people even put oak on it. And I always find myself in the middle between two extremes. I really like a lot of balance and a lot of complexity. So I try to make something that's right in between. So I try to source vineyards that have really nice tropical fruit characters in the nose, but we ferment it and make it in a style. We use 100% stainless steel. We bottle shortly after fermentation, only after 3 or 4 months, to retain the acidity and the freshness, and I pick on the early side, so it's a lower alcohol, more acidity, a brighter wine on the palate. So you get something that's really refreshing, but has these really pretty tropical fruit characters. So that's what I'm always going for with this wine.
Okay.
I think it has a lovely hint of herb too, though, which I love.
Mhm.
You know, maybe it's the clone or maybe, you know, whatever that is. It's a great balance, like you said. It's fruity, it's fresh, and it has just that little hint of herb, so that it's not like too tutti fruity.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, I think of basil.
and I love that balance as well.
What is your ultimate, Dave, when you're not drinking minor employee Grenache Rosé? What do you like to have with our Sauvignon Blanc? What is your like go-to food pairing? Because I know that's the idea, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, any fish, which obviously this time of year, you know, we're eating quite a bit of, hopefully, more and more, but, or even sushi or, you know. But it also is good with like some pork on the grill or something like that not too heavily spiced.
Yeah. Barbecue wine.
Yeah, but I think it's a very versatile white wine, and it's also just great to drink while you're grilling.
Yeah.
So.
It's your hot tub
The
wine.
problem is it disappears very quickly
It does disappear very quick.
while you're grilling.
So Jenn, as she said, she works with all of our restaurant partners, so she works with all of our chefs, all the chefs that know our wines and love us. And so she gets to see and taste all the amazing food creation and food pairings that that our partners do and make with our wine. So Jenn, what are like the top Sauvignon Blanc pairings that you've seen from some of our restaurant partners?
Well, they're always like super excited about the bright, beautiful acid, but it has this acidity that is so, as you were saying earlier, balanced. It's not an enamel ripper, you know, you don't feel like, my enamel could be better after 7 years in Napa. But they love like that punchy, bright, but also this like soft, round, tropical feel that it has. The most recent pairing that I had was in a wonderful restaurant in Sacramento. They did ceviche. It was like sort of the starter course. It was a palate refreshing starter, and it was I can't remember if it was like a sea bass or what was the actual fish in the ceviche, but it had mangoes in it, so it had that tropical balance, a little red onion, so it kind of like bounced and it was bright. I love it personally. Like anytime anyone's doing any fun, like everyone loves tacos right now. Everyone's Taco Tuesday, fish tacos, anything with that like bright cilantro, anything that's going to kind of balance out. It has a salinity to it, like this savoriness that almost kind of comes on, which makes me really enjoy it with obviously oysters with like a really nice mignonette as well. So the way that you make our wine, obviously, it just craves to be with some really delicious food. So, and that's one of the most fun things about selling the wine is because the chefs get super excited to turn around and make creations. I was at a tasting, we were preparing for a wine dinner, and the chef like just got out a pad of paper and just started writing the menu while we're tasting the wine. So he's just like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited, and he's feverishly writing down like 6 or 7 different things as he's tasting through, and that's, you know, a testament to the balance and like what you do. So that's a long answer.
The fun thing about them too is I think the wines change, which is another thing I love about all of our wines. Even just sitting in the glass for a half an hour, the wine changes, so it makes, you know, every bite or every next thing you're eating with it like change with the wine.
Yeah.
And I've had chefs call me like at 2 o'clock in the morning here, and they were like, my friend Lenny Russo in Minnesota was like, call me, it had to be 4 in the morning there. And he's like, these wines keep changing, so I keep changing when I'm cooking. I'm like, Lenny, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, man, go to bed. You know?
Lenny.
We'll do it tomorrow.
Okay.
But that's, I think, what makes these wines interesting and fun is that they keep telling a story, and it's not the same story. The story changes over time. So, you know, as it ages in the bottle, or even just as it sits in the glass and opens during the meal, it can become like later on in the meal a totally different wine than what it was when it first started. And that to me is interesting. You know, if it's like a one note, you know, 2-hit wonder and goes away, that's no fun. You know, I want it to keep talking to me. I want it to keep expressing itself.
That's what makes great wine interesting.
Yeah.
So how about the Viognier? You got a
Yeah, I was actually just going to check with Lauren. Do we have any Sauvignon Blanc questions?
You addressed the Sauvignon Blanc question we had. It was what food pairs well with Sauvignon Blanc.
All right.
So, yeah, we can transition into a little chat about the Viognier.
Cool. I think Dave should start up with the Viognier because, you know, he and his family started making wines in Napa Valley, purchased a Napa Valley winery, and the first thing he does is go off and start making Rhone varieties. And it comes from his absolute love of the Rhone and Rhone varieties. So I'd love to revisit why you decided to start making Rhone wines and what you love so much about them.
Well, it's funny because I never thought to myself, let's make some Viognier. You know, I mean, it never really came to my mind because you don't find a lot of Viognier in Napa Valley, certainly, or really very many places in California, especially at that time, which was, you know, sort of the mid-70s or mid-90s. I mean, so when we first opened the tasting room in 1996, Gary Brookman, who's our GM, Director of Winemaking, he's been here for 20-something years, had worked at Phelps before, and they had a Rhone program that they had been doing. And he had been buying grapes from this guy in Madeira, John Simpson. And John just showed up here one day, and he said, hey, you know, I have extra Viognier that I don't know what to do with it. Are you guys looking for some? Do you want to play around with it? And being a big fan of the Rhone Valley and having drunk some pretty amazing Condrieu, I said, by all means, let's play with it. And he was like, oh, I'll give it to you, and if you want it next year, you know, you can pay for it. I'm like, John, you're a farmer. We'll pay you for the grapes. You know, if we can't figure out what to do with it, we'll find a place for it. But so we put it in a tank and fermented it, and it just blew my mind. I mean, it was so fresh and so clean, and we didn't put any oak on it, and we didn't do any ML to it. It was just like, it was a revelation to me. So we didn't even really have the minor label done. So we actually had 2 vintages in the bottle before we even had labels to put on. But we were looking for wines to sell in the tasting room that weren't, you know, 50, 60, 80 bucks a bottle, that were fun to drink, and it just miraculously appeared to us. So we've been doing it ever since. I think the first vintage was 97. We did 200 cases of it, and now I think we're up to a few thousand cases a year of Viognier. So it's become a very successful varietal for us, and it's also one of my favorite white wines to drink. Viognier, Risson, Marsanne. You know, if we could make, you know, Grenache Blanc, I would do that too. But we have too many things already. Stacy would probably slap me in the head if I showed up with a couple boxes of Grenache Blanc. But you know, it's become one of our kind of flagship white wines, I think, and certain people know us because of Viognier, and that's cool.
There are definitely areas of the country where we are known for Viognier. Just, you know, that's just been the thing that just kind of stuck, because I think we do it on a large enough scale that we're one of the few producers that actually, you know, distributes it all over the country, and you can find it basically everywhere.
Yeah, I gotta say, for my world, I do a lot of those big consumer tastings, you know, in Aspen Food and Wine, or Pebble Beach, or you know, those are just a couple, but like any experiences. I was just doing one in Park City, Utah, right before all of the shutdowns, and who knows when we'll get to do another one of those again. But if I do not bring the Viognier, someone is upset with me. Not actual upset, but they're like, why isn't the Viognier here? So we really, every time I'm planning to decide which wines I'm bringing on the tasting, I remember, we gotta have it. People, they know it and they love it from us. And I don't know, Maureen, do you mind if I ask a question from, we had a couple people write in and ask questions ahead of time. And speaking of the Viognier, Karen from Houston was noticing that this vintage that she got when she ordered a little wine ahead of time for the tasting, she noticed that this vintage 2018 is from Paso. So she's curious because she's seen other, the Simpson Vineyard before, she's seen the California in the past, and she wants to know, are we making wine in Paso? What's the idea behind that?
Yeah, so Dave mentioned that we originally started buying fruit from John Simpson, who was in Madeira, which is in the Central Valley, and he eventually retired, or he said his wife made him retire. So they sold the vineyard, and the new owners decided rather than growing grapes, he wanted to grow almonds, so the vineyard got ripped out. Luckily, we had a few years notice, so I started a hunt, and this was 2013, 14 maybe. So I started hunting the state for the next great block of Viognier. So those couple of years where we had California on the label, we were doing a blend of several different vineyards. So what I would go out and source fruit, walk vineyards, and see what was available, talk to people, try to sample previous wines that had been made from that vineyard, and I found a couple good ones. So we would do a 1 or 2 year contract, get a couple tons from here, a couple tons from here, a couple tons from there, so I could try them all out and pick my favorite. So for a few years we were doing a blend of the different vineyards that we got, and this vineyard from Paso Robles stood out to me, was always my favorite. Talking about the Rhone, what the soils look like in the Rhone, this vineyard is white chalk. You walk through it and your boots are white when you come out of it. And Paso is great for growing these types of grapes, just because they're used to sort of a deserty environment, really hot and dry in the daytime, and it's really cool at night, so really big swings in temperature. This just kind of seemed like the perfect spot. In the few years that we started to get it, I really liked it, so I started begging them for more. But we couldn't get enough to make the amount of Viognier that we needed to make. So I still kept sourcing. Each year they gave me a little bit more, and a little bit more. So finally, 2018, I was able to source completely our whole Viognier program from this vineyard in Paso, and that's why we're able to make it a Paso Robles
We
designated.
should send a shout out too to our lovely friends at the Hospice de Rhone. This weekend would have been the annual Hospice de Rhone festival down in Paso, which is one of my favorite events on the planet, with some of the greatest people. It would have started today or tonight, and we're really missing our friends from Paso, but also from the Rhone Valley, from Australia, from Spain, that come to that event every year. It's hard to not see those guys right now, and it'll be really fun when we get back together again. And I know tomorrow they're doing an online cheers for all the wineries and from all over the world. So I've already talked to some of our friends in the Rhone Valley that are going to be on. So I'll probably be sitting by the pool with some Rhone wine and cheersing with them tomorrow. So here's to the Hospice de Rhone friends around the world. We love you, and we can't wait to see you again.
Any questions about food pairing can we do, so for my world, I always crave spicy foods. Anything, Viognier has this really just natural, organic, sort of viscosity to it. It's got a little bit of, oily, or, there's a cooling quality to it that just kind of naturally happens with spicy food. So I love it with Thai, so pad Thai, or a spicy Indian, sort of anything on that world. Obviously, I have fish tacos on the brain, so anything like that would be really nice and bright and fresh too, or a ceviche or oyster.
Yeah, the first time we ever used this in a wine dinner was with Michael Iglesias, who's a longtime supporter of Minor, and he was running a restaurant in the Love Triangle in San Francisco. And we did a dinner there, and they did a trio of ceviches with the Viognier as a starter. It was the first time we ever used Viognier for a wine dinner, and it was just spectacular.
Yeah.
And they had a scallop ceviche, they had a fish ceviche, and they had some tuna tartare or some poke tuna. It was miraculously good.
Yes. I love it with the really fatty fishes, with salmon or trout.
Yeah, especially king salmon,
Yeah.
which is super fatty, and it's it's spectacular, and I like to do my king salmon sometimes with cilantro and a little habanero sauce, and kind of poach it in a little white wine. And
Yeah.
it's yummy.
There you
Yeah.
have it. Can I do another question? From Sally in Springfield. She was really Springfield, Illinois. It was always in Springfield. What's the deal with the screw caps on these two wines, or why do we use screw caps?
Yeah, so we use screw caps on 3 of our wines, Sauvignon Blanc, Viognier, and our Rosado. And we consider them our early to market, early to drink, fresh, summer drinkable wines. So corks, part of wine's aging, if you put a wine in cork, is that cork is just slightly, air can go through it. So over time, you're getting a teeny little bit of oxygen that goes through the cork and gets into the wine. So that very low level of oxygenation is one of the things that helps age wine for a long time in bottle. But these wines, we bottle them perfectly. We don't want them to age. We want to retain their freshness, and we expect them to be drunk within a year of purchase. So, the screw cap is encouraging that sort of behavior because screw caps completely seal the bottle off, so there's no oxygen being introduced to the wine at all. So,
In my world, we say chill it and kill it because
That being said,
drink
though,
it now.
I have a bunch of old vintages of Viognier that are
they
still
probably
Yeah, that's great.
they
stunningly
probably
good.
do.
Even back when we bottled them with corks,
Yeah.
they actually age really well, and I've always found white Rhone varietals to age exceptionally well. I mean, some of them go through weird, funky periods, but they come back, and some people in the Rhone Valley would say that their whites age better than their reds. Like somebody at Bocastel actually said that to me. I was like, wow, that's a fairly
That's
controversial viewpoint.
Yeah. And I would believe that, but I would also say that the style in which we make our Viognier lends itself to earlier
Freshness.
drinking and more of
Yeah.
the freshness. So that's that.
Absolutely.
We're just trying to preserve that as much
But
as
even the
possible.
rosés age, like I had magnums of like 2002 Rosado
Yeah.
that are still like spectacular.
Well, speaking of aging and what to do with your wines, can we skip a beat away from these two white wines real quick? I've got a question from Tampa. Todd from Tampa was actually wondering, what's the story with decanting? So obviously we're talking red wines now, just in general, to decant or not to decant. What's your thought process on that?
I decant red wines for 2 reasons. One, if there's a lot of tartrates on the bottom, and you just want to, or a lot of sediment, you just want to get that off and not have to worry about getting those, so you can decant it into another container. And I usually use one of those old mesh T-ball strainer things.
Okay.
If you open the round ones that's opened up from the 70s, I still have one, and you can put it over a decanter and it'll catch all those little pieces of sediment. That's the perfect way to do that. But then in terms of changing the wine, either a really old wine can get a little funky and you need to blow off a little bit of that, or a really, really young wine that's really big and tight, you can use a decanter to get a bunch of air into it, that oxygenation we talked about. You decant it, you swirl it around a bunch, let it sit for 45 minutes to an hour, and it can actually chill the wine out because you're hyper-oxygenating it. So you're trying to age it a little bit quicker if you're drinking a wine that's a little too young. So both really old wines and really young wines are the wines I choose to decant.
I wouldn't say it's just for red wine either. I think white wine even benefits from getting that little bit of shake up, a little bit of oxygen to kind of open up the aromatics and let the flavor kind of come through. And even in the glass, just sitting in the glass for a while, like I said before, the wines will change because of the contact with oxygen, and I think it really helps let the wine express itself. So I mean, unless it's a really, really old bottle of red wine or even white wine that once the oxygen hits it, it would start to decline very quickly. I would say it can never hurt. It'll always help the wine open up more.
Do you have a suggestion on a white wine that you're saying any white wine, or just, is there like one in particular,
Well,
thinking like Chardonnay from France?
Yeah, like something, that maybe has a little more complexity or something that's really gonna express itself differently once it gets oxygen. But but
Okay.
any of them, you know, shake them up, you know, especially when they're young, they like it a little rough.
Okay, I've got another one. Thank you again ahead of time for all of the questions, and it helps if we have people sort of interacting because, you know, we don't always think about all these fun things that you're thinking about at home while you're drinking. So Seamus from Winnipeg was actually wondering, he just bought a bottle of the Oracle not that long ago, and so that would be the 2015 vintage. We already do a really nice aging time on this wine. And he wants to know, he wants to open it, but he's really the only one in the house that drinks red. And he wants to know if I open it, how long will it last after I open it? Because I'm going to have dinner tonight. You know, what's the story?
Yeah, if you can't finish the bottle, overnight is fine. You know, overnight on the counter is going to be okay. Overnight in the fridge is going to be okay. You just put the cork back in it. None of those contraptions that push air into it work because you're actually forcing oxygen into your wine. So you really just don't want to do that. Unless you have a specific contraption that puts nitrogen or CO2 into it, like the Corvin. But other than that, you know, put the cork back in, counter if it's not too warm, or in the refrigerator is fine. If you have a half bottle, then you can fill up your half bottle, so at least you have kind of a topped container and it doesn't have a lot of exposure. Close that up, drink the rest. But, you know, there are very few bottles that
I
are
have a
open
great
unless they're
story.
aged.
It's kind of
Right, who doesn't? Yeah.
it's kind of a bad story, but it's a good story. So I was, you know, when the whole coronavirus thing hit, I kind of grabbed my kids and went and hid in Montana for a while because there's a lot less people there. And while I was gone, my friend Bruce, who lives in San Diego right now, he's living with his 9-year-old father, was going a little stir crazy. So he and his wife and dog came up and stayed in my guest house while I was gone. And he was stir crazy, so he decided to clean my cellar, which hasn't happened for 15 years to this
Oh
extent.
my goodness.
So my friend Bruce Hallis buckled down, he emptied all the cardboard box, you know, folded it up, broke it down, and put stuff on the rack so you can see the floor in my cellar for the first time in a really, really long time. And now I can't find anything. But that's kind of fun too. But in the process of doing this, I had like an empty 9-liter wooden box that we obviously drank at some Christmas party.
Sure.
And Bruce found a 9-liter of 05 Benedetto cab and decided he was going to put it in the wooden box. But he broke it.
Oh no.
No.
But he kind of broke the top off, and he called Gary, he called Jack Edwards, he called everybody he knew, and said, "What do I do with this?" You know, he was afraid to tell me. So he poured it, he filtered it, and he poured it into a bunch of Magnum bottles that I had sitting around that I had already drunk, and they were etched. It was the anniversary cap. And so he filled every bottle as full as he could get it. And then I have some of those little glass stopper corks that people used to use, and they fit really well into the top of the bottle. So he filled them all up, and he stuck the toppers in them, and just left them in the cellar fanning up. And so when I got home, it was 2 weeks after he had done this, and I grabbed one for dinner one night. I'm not going to drink a whole Magnum by myself, and my kids are certainly not drinking it with me. And it surprisingly, and it's an 05, it came out of a 9-liter.
It was effectively decanted.
Yeah, it was effectively decanted, and then you put that glass stopper in, which is a really good seal as well.
Yeah.
And I haven't gotten into the other 2 bottles, but that one bottle, I put that stopper back in, and I just let it sit on the counter. And it was amazing. I mean, it was soft, it was beautiful, it was supple, and there's still like a third of that bottle sitting on my counter, and every time I pop it and drink it, I think it's that glass stopper really, you know, is a good seal. It's still tasting great, and it's been popped out of its original bottle for 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And it's 15 years old.
05 Benedetto is stunningly beautiful.
Well, my mom would be happy to hear that because she loves to leave wine open for days.
Yeah.
And I keep telling her, JoJo, that's
Don't
not
go to
okay.
get the little glass stopper
No,
thing.
I'm trying to move her away. You're enabling this,
Life
thing
is
that
short,
she's
JoJo.
doing.
Drink it.
Just drink
Wow.
it.
Drink it.
She was so nice. She wanted to help and contribute, so she bought a mystery case a few weeks ago. My mom is JoJo, and she called me the other day. She said, "I'm gonna hang on to it for when we're all together at Christmas." I'm like, JoJo, just drink it. You got rosé in there. Come on. So
We know where to get
you
more.
more.
we know where to get. When I always come home with wine too. So drink the wine. Life is short.
Drink the wine.
So do we have any other friends?
We answered all of the questions that we received.
All right.
So
Do we feel like we should do this again sometime with
Yeah,
some other
sure.
wines?
Fun.
Okay, well, we will be back at you soon.
Twist my arm.
Love you guys.
You
Thanks
can-
for being here.
Find anything we talked about at our website, minorwines.com.
Yeah, and we're actually running some really, really great inclusive shipping offers after the mystery case ended, which so many of you participated in. Thank you. We are going to be doing some other fun features. So if you're not on our mailing list, you can hop onto our website and get on our mailing list. But we're going to be doing inclusive shipping on 2 or more bottles through the end of May. We want to get through Mother's Day and a few other really great holidays. So yeah, reach out to us. I'm Jenn at Minor Wines. It's Jenn with 2 N's at Minor Wines. Stacy, Stacy, there's no E, at Minor Wines, and then, obviously Dave.
Dave.
We'll filter it through. So thank you.
Thank everyone. Be safe.
Stay safe and healthy.
Cheers.